companies like yours and all law enforcement do their part, we as community members must do our part.
That's correct.
What do you expect or want from us as community members to cooperate with you?
To be honest with you, private security and policing can't be everywhere. All right? There's a greater need for neighborhood watches to be put in place, whether formal or informal, thereby sharing information with each other and cultivating a sense of looking after each other in the community. I think that would be the best deterrent in terms of getting crime under control in Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay, and let's just say we form some neighborhood security watches in the communities. Does law enforcement persons come and help us with suggestions on what to do, where to go? Is there any guidance when we form these community safety groups?
So neighborhood watches can be formed, again, formally through the police department or the police force. There's a community service officer who can come out and arrange with that. And private security officers can also help come out because we can share our experiences as well in terms of what to look for in terms of crime and what type of alarming systems and stuff like that can be installed. So we can work closely with the community as well.
Okay, great. So I'm happy for our community members to know this, that if you form in neighborhood watches, ask for help so you can get some guidance on what to do. As it relates to home security now, so we're figuring out something to do as a group. But as it relates to home security, what practical steps can families take in terms of reducing burglaries and break-ins?
I think the simple thing still works best. My mother always said, Shawn, keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
When you take your home into consideration, what are the weak points in your home? Doors, windows. If we make sure that those are secure and we make sure that we have proper lighting on the outside, I think that in itself will harden your home as it relates to crime.
All right, so the entry points,
Correct.
doors and windows,
Doors and
burglar
windows.
bars.
I'm not quite an advocate of burglar bars simply because it creates a situation where if there's a fire inside of the home as well, there's that safety issue in terms of getting out as well. So you have to really and truly manage that risk and what the risks are. So I am not totally for burglar bars in certain situations.
That makes a lot of sense because we don't want to be securing a situation where we don't want people coming in, but then we can't get out if we need to.
There you go. That's totally correct.
Okay, what about good old-fashioned dogs?
Dogs are lovely. I had a friend, though, that had about 3 big dogs in his yard, and they would never bark. I said to him, listen, introduce a Jack Russell, get a noisemaker, and that's really and truly what you want. I think in some areas in rural states or rural areas in the UK, they actually use geese as alarms.
Geese?
Geese.
Okay.
Best noisemakers in the world, best alarm systems you'll ever have.
Wow, that's interesting. So you want the little mongrel dogs,
Exactly.
not the name brand dogs.
No, you want something that's going to come out and yip and yap and everything.
Okay, and you mentioned exterior lighting.
Yes.
You mean like the cameras?
Well, no, I'm talking lighting. I'm talking in terms of motion lighting. So you have a situation where someone approaches your property, it goes on. There are 2 things that perpetrators hate, or thieves hate. Lighting, and sound or noise, because it draws attention to them, obviously.
Okay, lighting and sound. Make sure your homes are well lit.
Correct.
On the outside, motion detectors.
Motion detectors, correct. And if you can't afford an alarm system with a siren on the outside, so that if anyone does try to break into your home, there's an audible alarm that goes off.
Okay, that reminds me of the movie Home Alone. When the little boy had all these little contraptions, and there was noise, and there was a lot of stuff that kept those perpetrators away.
Totally correct.
All right, so Shawn, let's shift for a little bit. We have a situation where our nation's youth and children have become very, very vulnerable. Parents have to drop their children off to play sports, to school, and sometimes they're at work. So they trust these children to get home on their own and to be safe. What advice would you give to parents as it relates to keeping their children safe in public spaces?
This is something that's very close to my heart, having 5 kids, yeah?
Okay, you're blessed.
Pardon?
You're blessed.
I'm blessed. To be honest, we need to teach awareness rather than fear. Teach them safe routes. Teach them who the safe adults are. teach them stranger danger, okay? And as you as a parent, I think the most important thing we can do right now is to check our children's online footprint. That is quite important, making sure that they're not sharing personal information and they're not being groomed.
Okay, so it's not about fear.
No, it's not.
It's about education.
It's about education and awareness. That's correct.
What did you mention about stranger danger? Can you explain that term for our
Sure,
listeners?
sure. Stranger danger. If I'm walking down the street and I see someone and they're approaching me and they say, "Hey, how you doing? Can I help?" as a child, and I yell "stranger danger," that then draws attention to me, all right? And persons then can see that perpetrator. That, in effect, is it again that audible alert, that sound.
Yes.
That's what is required.
Yes, I'm encouraged by your statement, but I still feel a little sad at the same time, remembering the recent events and how that young girl, things could have been different had she been told that.
Right.
Things could have been so different.
Well, I think the education starts within the school settings, yes, and within homes. But if we also need to educate educators on how to present these particular topics as well, and I think that will assist our communities greatly.
Okay, all right. And then we have the modern situation now where children are being targeted online.
Correct.
And all these types of things. So there's a lot for parents to think about.
And that's why I said about checking the online footprint. We have to be actively involved in seeing what our children are doing online. So many times we are allowed to, we give them tablets and say to them, "Oh, go off in a corner and you do your own thing while I'm working or while I'm cooking." But the reality is there's so many persons out there that are just waiting for chances and taking snippets and just grooming young children, you know, pulling them out, say, "Hey, after school, can you meet me this place? Send me a picture." You know, there are various types of characters out there that you really want and truly to keep away from your children.
Okay, thank you for that. That's really, really important.
That's not a
I
problem.
believe your statements today and the encouragement and guidance will save a lot of our children.
I hope so too.
Once parents listen.
Well, there you go. And like I said, I'm always available anytime to come out and give talks at schools and so on. So
Yes.
really and truly, you can just reach out.
That's really good. We have another vulnerable group in our society. We have the children and we also have elderly. Persons have been praying against the elderly. What are the vulnerabilities of the elderly and how can we protect them?
Well, the reality is our seniors are often targeted because they live alone and they're generally more trusting than we are. Okay? They grew up in a different era. They grew up in an era where the home was always open and you always welcome persons into your home. Now we have a situation where we have to become a bit more guarded, and they haven't transitioned to that stages yet. Okay? So, as family members, we need to check in on them regularly. Okay? We need to ensure, again, that their house is well lit and well secured, and that our neighbors as well can jump in and say, "Hey, listen, I can go across and check in on Mary, Grandpa, Grandma, whenever the need arises." But I think one of the biggest things that we have to look at is from a health safety angle as well. Slip and falls. I mean, so many of our elderly people would slip and fall, and no one would check in on them. Check in regularly. I think that's the greatest thing that we can do for them.
Okay, I have a soft spot for elderly.
Okay.
And I do acknowledge what you said, that long ago communities were safer. People looked out for each other. You knew everyone who lived in your village. And so there were no strangers per se. But now people are coming into the villages. And when you hear of crimes in certain villages, you're like, what? We used to leave our homes open and everybody come in and out. But now we don't know who are living there. And so we need to be mindful. We need to check on our elderly often, as you say, and need to ensure that their places are secure. And also look out to make sure that they're safe while in the home.
Correct.
Wow, that's really, really good. What about our workplaces? We're seeing a lot of small businesses being attacked, guns, masks, and all these types of things. Do you feel like we need to train employees more on safety procedures and precautions?
Since I've been here in Antigua and Barbuda, I've done some training for a major commercial bank already. And we've also done it for an insurance company. And we've done it for 2 other small businesses as well. Remember, employees are our first defense in terms of assisting us to deter fraud, theft, and even workplace violence. So training is quite vital in terms of protecting our businesses going forward and also protecting our assets, which not only are the physical assets of the company, but our employees as well. That's quite important.
Okay, so you want to protect the physical assets as well
As well
as
as
the
employees,
employees.
of course.
Sometimes you have a situation where the employees are the perpetrators, but that's a whole other story.
Well, that
Fraud
obviously
and these
is
types of things.
correct. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to your hiring processes, your recruitment processes. Are you actually doing background investigations? I know we say that Antigua is quite a small community, we know everyone, but the reality is we also have so many persons coming in from overseas. Do we actually know who they are? Have we actually done a background investigation? They might look quite good on paper, but do they actually have the credentials to match?
Yes, and we know we've had situations in Antigua also where persons have brought paperwork that is not solid, it's not
Correct.
genuine, and so that background check is really important.
That is correct.
Going back to what we said earlier, you want to protect yourself not only from what's outside, but you also have to think about internal
As well.
policies and systems and things like that. Technology. Technology has transformed the whole security system. Long time ago, I watched this movie called Enemy of the State. Will Smith. You've seen that movie?
Seen it
You're
multiple
too young
times.
for that, but okay. In that movie, right, I was amazed at the technology. Some persons were after him and they had cameras in his television. So you're sitting watching your television, a camera is watching you, his credit cards, like he was being tracked everywhere, GPS and everything. So what role does technology play in security, really?
Technology is advancing at light speeds, and that's the reality. With the introduction of AI, things have also become a bit more complex.
Yes.
A bit more complex from the side of, from the security profession. We love it because now we can track faces, we can track shapes and sizes of everything.
Really?
We can tell you if a bag has moved and where that bag has come from. There's so many markers now that we can even place on a particular bag. So let's say, for instance, you're traveling through an airport and we believe that you're suspicious and your bag is suspicious. We can now put a marker on your bag via AI and track your bag as you move through the entire airport. So in terms of technology is advancing at light speeds, but it can also be used against us as well.
Okay,
Definitely,
so
and we
there are
have to be
positives.
mindful of that.
Okay, so there are positives and
And
negatives.
negatives.
The AI, it's a lot for me to process. So I'm moving very slowly, but I can imagine in your position and
Right.
other security firms and law enforcement, it can be an advantage. But sometimes good things are taken and used in a bad way.
Right.
So we have to really, really be mindful.
Oh yeah, definitely. AI will transform the security sector definitely. And in terms of policing, it can be used in terms of analyzing data. That is going to be quite important for us, and how we can then use that data to filter through to the individual communities, looking for hotspots, looking for reoccurrences in terms of crimes and where crimes are happening. We can now even predict, if we have the correct data, based on a timeline, when the perpetrator will hit again. Yeah,
Wow.
that is possible.
Wow, with technology.
That is correct.
So with the rise in technology, and we talked about alarm systems at the home and cameras because the perpetrators hate noise
All right.
and songs and lights. With all the rise with cameras and alarms, I'm sure Amazon sales are going out of control. What about human vigilance?
Right.
How do we balance the two?
Okay, I always say this. Although you have technology, you still need that human element.
Okay.
Technology records, yeah? Humans protect and prevent, all right? At the end of the day, a camera, an alarm system will never be able to replace a security officer, and it will never be able to replace an employee totally. It's a tool. It's a powerful tool, but there has to be someone behind that tool who's using the data that it's providing you with.
Absolutely. And if current goes off,
There you
and
go.
you don't have a generator,
Well, I will always say this, Karen, there's no system that we've installed that doesn't have a backup battery.
okay.
So most of the camera systems and alarm systems now actually come with a backup battery.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the human element is
Yeah.
important.
Very much so.
All right. And with the rise of crime recently, I'm wondering what role does social factors play? What role does economic factors play? Because this is always one that's hotly discussed. Do people, because of poverty, social factors, marijuana use, do all these things drive crime? That's a question that sociology people, I know you're not a sociologist, but what role, though, does economics and social factors play in the rise of crime?
So crime doesn't happen in a vacuum,
Okay.
okay? like you said, drug use, high unemployment, and that social inequality plays a big role in terms of crime factors. But it's not just about policing alone, okay? It has to do with community. We, as a community, as business people, as schools, as general members of the community, need to provide opportunities for young people. We need to mentor them. Yeah, we need to provide opportunities. We need to get in and say to them, listen, let's create change at the youth level because this is the next generation for tomorrow.
Yes.
If we start at that level and we start to close that gap between education and opportunity, I think we'll be heading in the right direction in terms of reduction of crime.
I love that. I love that. So you are a sociologist on the cover.
Well, I guess we have to be sometimes.
I guess once you're a citizen of the world, you can't be blind. You have to be aware of all the factors and all the variables involved, right? You can't go into things from a one-dimensional view.
Sure.
So we have to look at our youth.
Yes,
provide opportunities for them, because if they don't have good things to do with their time and energy, then they will do what's available.
Correct.
And we will have a problem.
Correct.
That's really an issue. Shawn, one of the other things that alarmed me a couple of years ago is the amount of times we saw crimes being committed against employees having large sums of cash on them. I'm sure you heard about it in the news. It could have been like they have payday money or whatever. How risky is it? How safe is it? Should we have employees taking cash from the business to the bank?
You know, I arrived in Antigua 4.5 years ago, and that is one thing that I've seen that is still continuing. There's no reason why we should be putting an employee's life at risk, or even an owner of a business life at risk, when there's so many security companies out there who are willing to transport goods for them. All of the security companies, or most of the security companies, should have or do have insurance coverage that would adequately provide coverage for your loss, if it so happened. So why would you take that risk? What's the value of a human life versus what's the value of $55,000, $60,000? Let's say even say $1 million. Is a life worth that? Mm-hmm. For me, for a few $100s a month, you can put your peace of mind at rest, knowing that professionals are taking care of that and you can concentrate on your core business.
I agree with you. I do not see the point in having an employee put their life at risk in that manner. And I hope we can ask employees that if they're asked to do that, to ask their company, can I please not do that? I mean, I don't want to tell anybody to outright refuse and they lose their jobs. Right. But really and truly, I don't think it's a safe thing. And again, we talked about internal crime.
Correct.
Someone else from the company, knowing that you're the one responsible for taking this cash every Friday, they can tip off somebody else.
Of course.
And then we end up with a risky situation.
Definitely. I would always say it's always better to get a licensed professional in, all right, who has the years of experience and who can give you the relevant advice and provide that service for you. It takes all the risk away from you. And I'm sure your insurance policies at the end of the day would love you for it as well.
Of course, of course. Safe practices
Correct.
At home, safe practices at work, safe practices on the streets. That's what we're all about.
Correct.
Safety for our communities.
Safety first.
Yes. If you can give 3 pieces of advice for staying safe, what would they be?
3 pieces of advice for staying safe. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. We call it situational awareness. If something feels wrong and it's your gut feeling it feels wrong, it is wrong. Understand that clearly. Use technology, but also use good habits. Both of them together makes the perfect balance in terms of a good security system. And I will also say the last thing, and probably the most important thing, is see something, say something. Get involved with community groups, get involved with your colleagues in your workforce, that you guys can share information, because knowledge is truly power.
Okay, Shawn, thank you so much for answering those questions. You've given our listeners a lot of food for thought. Persons, I hope, can contact you and other law enforcement or security companies to get some practical tips on how to set up your neighborhood groups. Let's remember also to educate our children. Look out for our elderly. These are all things you have emphasized.
Correct.
And we really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
We'll be back with more in sessions after the break. Safety starts with simple steps we can all take every day. Here are 5 practical tips to help keep our homes and communities safer. Start with the basics at home. Always lock your doors and windows, even when you're inside. Simple steps like good lighting around your property can discourage intruders. Know your neighbors. A strong community is the best security system. Exchange numbers, look out for each other, and don't hesitate to raise the alarm if something feels off. Protect the vulnerable among us. Check in regularly on elderly relatives, neighbors, or anyone living alone. Small actions like phone calls or visits can keep them safer and more connected. Teach children early. Talk to your children about safe routes home, what to do in an emergency, and who they can trust if they feel unsafe. These lessons build lifelong habits. Stay alert and trust your instincts. Whether at work, in public, or at home, if something doesn't feel right, don't ignore it. Prevention often begins with awareness. Welcome back to Sessions with Koren. Time now for your golden nugget. Safety is everyone's responsibility. When we each play our part at home, at work, and in our neighborhoods, we don't just protect ourselves, we protect the entire community. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today's episode. A special thank you to our guest, Mr. Shawn Dunnbreaker, for sharing his insights on building safer communities and the role we all can play in security. Remember, the little steps we take each day can make a huge difference in our lives and in our neighborhoods. Until we meet again, stay grounded, stay growing, and stay you. See you next time.